type of intervention from the government are into Bitcoin, so that should make them feel very comfortable. Let's just see a digital currency where customers have accounts directly linked to the Bank of England would also make it far easier to issue so-called helicopter money, where funds are injected into people's pockets by the government. This would prove a more effective way of stimulating the economy in times of crisis than quantitative easing, is what the Mail says. Fantastic stuff. It sounds fantastic. Of course, what they're talking about here is universal basic income, but that may not be quite so fantastic. But anyway, I'll just make the point. I'm glad the Mail is catching up with this. I'm not so excited about the way they're presenting it, but I want to reinforce the point that this is not a Rishi Sunak or a Treasury initiative. This is a Bank for International Settlements initiative. This is from June, a tweet by the Bank for International Settlements. Central bank digital currencies offer in digital form the unique advantages of central bank money, which are settlement finality, liquidity, and integrity, bolstering the central bank foundations of the payment system. And they were making the point that cash is increasingly no longer in use, and really we need to move on to something else. And they were also in the report making the point that there are two types of central bank digital currency: a wholesale central bank digital currency, which is only for banks, and a retail central bank digital currency, which is for the likes of you and me. Here's where they make that point. So we get access to it instead of cash. And we've got to remember what Rishi Sunak has been saying, because, of course, with respect to COP26 that's coming up, we have to renew the UK's position as the world's preeminent financial center. So we're going to lead the way on this. But equally, if you remember what the wonderful Mark Carney has been saying, we will not get to net zero in a niche. It requires a whole economy transition. And that's what these central bank digital currencies are all about. So let's just remind ourselves what the Bank for International Settlements was saying, that a group of 7 central banks, together with the Bank for International Settlements, has published a report identifying the foundational principles necessary for any publicly available central bank digital currencies to help central banks meet their public policy objectives. So CDBCs are potentially a new form of digital central bank money. They're combined with the use of distributed ledger technology. So the question is then, was Bitcoin a pilot for this? Was Bitcoin an effort to get this type of thing acceptable in the general public by, making it seem alternative? Yes, it seems like a nudge to me. And in part because cash is rapidly disappearing in their jurisdiction. And just to make the point once again, this is part and parcel of the Build Back Better Great Reset. And if anybody wants to understand how COVID has helped drive this forward, Ian Davis has a new article on the UK Column website. I absolutely recommend people read it. It's long, but you need to understand the principles in this. The not so great carbon reset. Do read this and share it as widely as possible. And David, I'm very interested in your thoughts on central bank digital currencies and how they are really much better than quantitative easing.
Yes. Firstly, the Bank of International Settlements have been pretty pro Bitcoin for some time. Some years ago, I found out that you could get Bitcoin from a cash dispenser on the railway platform just outside the BIS central office in Switzerland. I think that was a clue that they were really quite for it. The Mail's wrong, obviously, about the largest change to currency in 100 years. That was coming off gold, and having basically a fiat paper printing standard, and that happened in 1971 when the gold window closed and the last link to gold was severed, and that's when we started to see the increasing disparity between rich and poor. That's happened almost exactly the same time, and Rishi wants to have Britain return to being the preeminent financial centre in the world. That stopped with the First World War, Rishi. So we've got a wee bit of improvement to do if we're going to get back there. We did rule the waves. We no longer did. We had a worldwide empire. We no longer do. And we were obviously on the gold standard, and we no longer are. It was based on sound money. You might try it.
I don't think so. I don't think he will. But anyway, Where does that take us? Defence?
Well, if you're building a fantastic financial empire, Mike, you want to be able to defend it. But we're going to make the statement which nobody else is going to make, and it's the backbone of the Royal Navy is broken. There's no doubt about this at all. So let's come on to this fantastic ship, the Type 45 destroyer. So this is the Royal Navy's own website commenting. The Type 45 destroyer is more than just a ship. The headline there, a warship for the 21st century. It's a symbol of Britain's eminent place on the world stage and a powerful deterrent to those who would do us harm. It's the embodiment of the Royal Navy's commitment to defending the fleet, upholding the law, and protecting our economy and way of life. So you don't want to mess around on the streets because they're going to send a Type 45. Well, maybe not, as we shall see. We've got apparently six Type 45 destroyers. They're amongst the most advanced warships ever built. They're suited to a huge range of tasks, from hunting down pirates to defending the fleet from air attack, providing humanitarian aid, upholding the law, of course. And they've got a ferocious Sea Viper missile, which can knock down moving targets out of the sky up to 70 miles away. And there's the statement, Type 45 destroyers are the backbone of the Royal Navy. Well, why is the backbone broken? Well, here we are. We come to Defence News, where the real headline comes out. Most of the Royal Navy's destroyers are unavailable for deployment. Most means 5 out of the 6 ships we have. So we no longer have an air defence capability, so the Royal Navy's backbone is indeed broken. Tobias Ellwood, chair of the Defence Select Committee, said this: it's an operational concern. HMS Defender is now our only currently operating Type 45. If that ship experiences propulsion problems, which we've seen across the Type 45 family, then the carrier strike group will be forced to lean on a NATO ally to ensure we have destroyer protection.
Is that not exactly what's being done?
That was the plan in the first place, yes. Mike. But I'm going to say he's a bit confused here because he's mixing the need for air defence with the fact that this ship happens to be designated as a destroyer. He goes on to say the lack of, well, he doesn't say lack of, he says availability. The lack of availability of the Type 45 illustrated that Britain needed a bigger navy. Now, this confused me because he's suggesting we need more of these ships which don't work. So he's confused over fit for purpose and size. That's why he's looking a little bit surprised there. But that's the reality of the situation, that the Royal Navy at the moment cannot provide air defence for the carrier properly. And Tobias Ellwood appears to be totally confused that this actually means disaster for the Royal Navy, not it isn't big enough. So the procurement issues, the design issues, the purchasing, the suitability of the equipment, all shown to be wanting and defective. David?
In the 1930s, the forward planning for the fleet, which was perfectly sensible and was vastly underfunded and never actually happened in full, was based on an availability of 75%. 25% of, for example, the cruiser force would be under refit or repair at any given time, or could be. So that would be 1 or maybe 2 of the Type 45s would be in repair or refit, and 4 or 5 would be available. Since the 1930s, mechanical equipment has, of course, become much more reliable, not much less reliable. So you would have thought that we could do better than that. So 5 out of 6, not 1 out of 6, would be a reasonable aiming point, surely.
Yes. Well, there's something has gone badly wrong. It's been deliberate, in my opinion. The capability of the military has been collapsed in order to drive EU Defence Union. That was the plan. And there's a lot more to be said on that. But the good news is one of our biggest fans, Mariana Spring, is launching a book. And there's been a bid, an auction for which has been won by Atlantic Books. I got there in the end. So she's writing a book which is notes from the disinformation wars. That's what she's writing. So Mariana, very, very pleased. I'm going to label this as fake news, but it wasn't from her own website, from her own Twitter page, of course.
And we're ending on Some spectacular news. Apparently, this originated with the Telegraph and then it filtered out through the rest of the media cartel and ended up in Plymouth Live. Government ministers fear that farting could spread COVID, says the headline. Now, I'm not sure that we're allowed to use that word on UK Column News, but it's in the headline. I can't really change it. And it's saying, it has been reported that some UK government ministers have privately expressed concerns that flatulence could spread the disease, it has been claimed. The Telegraph quotes an unnamed minister expressing the fears, pointing to evidence which suggests that the coronavirus could be spread when an infected person breaks wind in a confined space, such as a toilet. It's already been revealed that the virus can present in fecal matter, with tests proving this to be the case. However, the science on whether farting could spread the coronavirus is not definitive. One minister who wasn't named told the Telegraph that they had read credible-looking stuff on it from other countries, and there had been evidence of a genomically linked tracing connection between two individuals from a lavatory cubicle in Australia. So, David, I'm frankly finding it difficult to hold it together reading that out. So could you maybe take over at this point?
This is exactly what I've been warning you about for about 9 months, Mike. This is the scariest variant of them all. Never mind the Delta variant, the Indian variant, toilet COVID. Toilet COVID knows when you're alone. Toilet COVID gets you when you're most vulnerable. Toilet COVID's coming.
I'll just add to that, David, that of course Plymouth susceptible to flooding in the central city area, and we've had a lot of other floods around the country in urban areas. When those floods occur, sewage is brought to the surface, so that must represent, under this rule, a massive risk. If flatulence is a problem, then flooding and raw sewage in Britain's streets must now be a massive problem. But neither South West Water or any of the other water authorities or indeed the government want to talk about that problem. But we're left with, this is the best that Plymouth Live can do.
We're not going to blame Plymouth Live uniquely. This began with the Telegraph and it spread out from there right across the media cartel. So we got to put the blame where it deserved.
Unless it was an embedded BBC Democracy reporter, Mike.
That's always possible.
Okay.
Anyway, we'll be back in a few minutes on the UK Column live stream with some extra, and otherwise 1 p.m. Oh, yes. Well, good point. Look, we just want to say thank you very much to the person who sent us through some Slate coasters with UK Column on them, and also some other bits and pieces. Thank you very much for that.
Yeah, it was very nice. So thank you. Okay, we'll be back in a few minutes, and aside from that, we'll be back on Wednesday.
Yes. See you then.
Thanks for joining us. Bye-bye.
Bye.